Steve, we're here with a blast from the past. This is Evil Dead, the game, and this follows the story of the first three movies. I believe there's a fourth movie, but regardless, this is a incredibly gory video game based on incredibly gory movies. So there is definitely an adult theme here. I want to make that clear. This is quite gory, and we unfortunately or fortunately have to show that as the gameplay. So sit back and enjoy. But this will follow a lot of those cues that you've seen in the movies. There's a huge amount of gore, like I mentioned, the demons, the deadites coming for you, and it kind of plays in a way that Friday the 13th does, or Dead by Daylight perhaps. It's the asymmetric team-based thing. I believe it's 4-on-4, but the survivors have to scramble, grab the pages of the Necronomicon, and then banish the evil one before it's too late. And of course, being the evil ones, your job is to prevent that happening, but you can scare your enemy into submission. That's kind of how it works. And it's cute. There's a lot of details as we get finer into the game, but what was your first impression getting into it?
Do you know what? Like you said, it's very similar. It does fall into that particular niche, whether it's like the Predator hunting grounds, the 4-on-1, like you said, Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, and even like the Ghostbusters, you know, that kind of 4 survivors and 1 ghost. And being a fan of the Evil Dead films, I thought they'd done a really, really good job in captivating all the characters for the film. Because you do have that in this game, because as the 4 survivors, you have your different classes, whether it's leaders, warriors, hunters, and support. And in the same way as well, if you want to play the demon, and again, like everything else, the more you go out and play this game, and you get your XP and you level up, then you can get the upgrades. But what I do like about this game as well, there's about 25 weapons you can go around and change your weapon. Whether it's the old ash chainsaw, like upgrade that to a better one, or the boomstick, the shotgun, and things like that. So there's plenty of variety out there. And it kind of reminds me a bit like the PUBG, that you go exploring in the wilderness, and you find cabins, and you go around, and you just search for like a little bit of health pickups, obviously your weapons and things like that. And you can also ping it for your teammates as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Friday the 13th call out for me. I see that similarity. You kind of want to arm yourself up before you face danger, because you're not exactly clear when you're going to get more health and other things along the way. I found that the health was really spread bare. I had a really hard time kind of surviving and keeping on and keeping your fear down, because that's a consideration. So I'm not quite certain that I appreciate the details of finding everything in the map. I think it is interesting, and I'm not sure how else you would do it, but a buy station perhaps. But then again, there are chests that are around the map, and that's something that the evildoers, we can say, will trap or try and bottleneck you into that location. So it does make sense that there's quite a large map.
There is quite a few modes in this game as well. You do have Splatter Royale, which you have everyone on there. You can pick your character, and it's the last demon or survivor standing, so to speak. Like we said, you've got your 4 versus 1, whether it's PvP, or if you want to go against AI at both terms, if like you want to be the demon and AI survivors. But you also have missions, which is more focused on the stories of the films. And I was going to say, these are damn hard, because you're on your own here, and you do need your teammates.
That's what I found. It was much more difficult than I expected. It was really hard for me to get beyond 1 or 2 even, because it felt like a long slog, and I didn't have any health, like I said, as going through it. It was really difficult, but I think that's kind of where the strength of the game is, if that makes sense, in the story mode, because that's the closest likeness to the movies, like you said, and that's what you're here for, I think. If you're a fan of Evil Dead, that's why you're going to pick up this game versus Dead by Daylight.
The other thing I found trouble was finding matches, because as you touched on before, is as you play, your fear gets higher and higher as you hear noises or you get the demons coming towards you. And the only way to get that down is actually find a campfire or lantern that you can actually use in matches to strike to create fire. And you have to stay around that to build your fear down. But the problem with that is, the trouble I had was my fear was so high, it makes it an easy target for the demons to find you. Because I guess you're probably breathing heavier and you're a bit more erratic in some of the things. And I thought that was a nice little touch as well.
I found it was really interesting that there's this kind of stealth element, this fear, because that makes a lot of sense. If you're scared, you're going to be stumbling, you're going to be making. What that shows to the demon is that you now have an outline around you. I'll be able to see you across the map if you're scared, and you can combat that by staying together in groups. That makes sense. When's the last time you were afraid of the dark with friends? You know, that doesn't happen. But it's interesting because there's that element, and I think that's really well done. The combat, again, really well done. I think that's a strength here. But when it comes to being the demon, that's where I was really disappointed. At first I couldn't really understand what I was supposed to do, how I'm supposed to interact with survivors.
Yeah.
I'd played being a survivor many times, but when it comes to actually using your powers on the different survivors, possessing trees, and it was a little cumbersome. And once I could get the hang of it, I felt like there was really not much I could do. I almost was just watching the survivors complete the game, and that was a real letdown. But other than that, I had an issue getting into the Battle Royale, the Splatter Royale. I couldn't find a match, and I'm not sure what's up with that. Well, I think we could probably go on about this game for quite some time, but I'm going to cut it a little short here with a score, but I have mixed feelings. The game is an excellent concept, and I'm really a fan of this asymmetrical. The combat really stands out well, and I think the fear system works as well, but I really wish they leaned a little bit more into the movie sector, maybe added some checkpoint to the missions, which are incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing some network issues. I'm seeing the not much to do on the demon side. I have real fear for whether this game lasts. And as such, it's a good concept, but I have to give this a 6. I don't think it really is where it needs to be.
Yep. I'm giving this one a 7. I'm a big fan of the films, and I like the way this was going. Again, it does fall into that particular niche that I find it will get very popular, and then people just dwindle down, or they'll jump onto something similar to that game as well. It wasn't perfect. Like, I did have some lagging issues and some texture issues as well, and it kind of did put me off a little bit. I did love the kind of the fatalities of, like, when you start chainsawing the demons, and then all of a sudden you push the right trigger down, or the thumbstick, and then it just does its own thing of plowing that chainsaw into his body and out through his head. That was kind of fun as well, but overall I'm giving this a 7.
I have a master's in maiming and a PhD in pain.
There is no doubt that the demon